dense choreography of ships and aircraft rehearsing the hard work of staying ready. For days beneath a steady wind and grey sky, a multinational task group moved through timed, repeated evolutions designed to test communications, weapons and logistics, the small, exacting tasks that matter most when stakes are high. Amphibious ships and surface combatants, patrol aircraft and helicopters executed coordinated maneuvering, live fire sequences, anti-submarine hunts, search and rescue scenarios, and the delicate seamanship of underway replenishment that keeps a group of ships at sea. This year's multinational maritime event, part of the annual Balikatan series between the Philippines and partner forces, drew units from 5 navies and the US Coast Guard. Among them were an amphibious ship and a Coast Guard cutter from the United States. Japan sent escort ships and a landing ship. Australia and Canada contributed frigates, and the Philippines put several of its news. T vessels and crews to sea. BRP Miguel Malvar, BRP Antonio Luna, BRP Tarlac and BRP Cape San Agustin. Together, they ran a syllabus meant to sharpen the skills sailors, aviators and mariners will rely on if a real crisis ever arrives. Live fire drills were an unmistakable centerpiece. Crews practiced engaging short-range air and surface threats, testing tracking systems and rehearsing the fast transition from detection to engagement. One particularly visible demonstration took place aboard BRP Miguel Malvar, where a close-in weapon system fired rapid bursts to defeat nearby threats, such as drones or inbound missiles. The point was practical. When sensors and weapon systems are networked and rehearsed, the margin for surprise shrinks. Anti-submarine warfare was another major focus. Sonar arrays were towed, torpedo and depth charge drills were repeated, and surface ships coordinated with maritime patrol aircraft to detect, classify and track potential underwater contacts. Hunting a quay, mad adversary in congested seas, is a methodical, patient business, narrowing a contact box in water where echoes confuse and commercial traffic complicates the picture. At the same time, search and rescue exercises kept human urgency at the center of training, recovering survivors from simulated incidents, coordinating helicopters and small boats, and synchronizing medical evacuation procedures under pressure. Sustainment exercises underscored the mechanics of prolonged operations. Crews practiced underway replenishment, the precise transfer of fuel, food, and ammunition between ships, steaming side by side. Those unglamorous moments, hoses, highlines, crews in harnesses, are the lifeblood of any seagoing task force. They extend operational reach and allow ships to stay at sea longer without returning to port. At the close of the maritime component, planners staged cooperative activities meant to knit participating navies more tightly together. Communications drills combined with a final refueling at sea to validate the task group's stamina and interoperability. Philippine officials reported the component finished ahead of schedule and that exercise objectives were met. For commanders, that made for a useful, quantifiable result. Check the boxes, log the lessons, and move on to after-action reports that will define the next cycle of training. Not far from the exercise area, however, other actors watched. Naval authorities operating in and around the West Philippine Sea reported monitoring the presence of vessels and aircraft belonging to the People's Liberation Army Navy. One officer put what he saw in stark terms. Capt. Paul Michael Hechenova said, "Asterisk, for the duration of this activity, we detected so far 4 PLA Navy warships around the vicinity of the exercise, starting from our day 1 at sea on the 24th of April until today, as to quarter-pract, multiple aircraft, maritime patrol planes, helicopter operating from one of those warships, and an unmanned SASH," NACIM observed at high altitude. Official statements emphasized professionalism in those encounters. A naval spokesperson said, asterisk, "Generally okay behavior, no confrontation, no radio challenges. They're just here monitoring our activity." That distinction, monitoring our activity, that distinction. Monitoring versus harassment is not mere semantics for sailors at sea. It can mark the difference between a tense but safe exercise and an incident that escalates. Close observation is itself a message. Actions are observed, interpreted, and sometimes contested. The strategic subtext of a rehearsal is often as important as the tactics practiced on deck. This maritime activity was one component of a much larger Balikatan iteration described by officials as the biggest to date, spanning land, air, and sea, and involving thousands of personnel. The exercise's twofold message is familiar: reassure partners and domestic audiences about collective defensive capability and deter actions that could unsettle maritime stability in the E-region. Frequent realistic joint exercises build trust, test logistics, and expose procedural gaps before they become crises. Across oceans, other shifts of strategic consequence were unfolding. Late in April, a major oil producer announced a formal exit from a decades-old cartel. The United Arab Emirates declared it would leave OPEC, with its change of status set to take effect on the 1st of May. Analysts read the move as both an economic step and a geopolitical signal. A leading producer choosing greater freedom to set output and pricing, and a sign that the cartel's cohesion may be fraying. That kind of change reverberates in markets and capitals. It alters bargaining leverage, influences forecasts, and forces recalibration among buyers, sellers, and governments. Diplomacy, too, played out on ceremonial stages this week. Britain's monarch, on a state visit to Washington, addressed a joint meeting of the United States Congress, a rare appearance that placed transatlantic ties under public scrutiny. The visit blended ceremony and substance, a state dinner and formal exchanges on one hand, and differences over policy displayed in more candid settings on the other. In that context, one moment drew attention when the host sought public assurance about limits on another country's nuclear ambitions. The monarch did not publicly comment on that particular line, illustrating how ceremonial events can both reinforce alliances and leave unresolved policy questions lingering in the press and the halls of power. Back in Washington, the US, political and legal scenes supplied their own headline-grabbing developments. Former FBI Director James Comey was indicted in a criminal case brought by the Justice Department. The charges stem from a social media post, an image later deleted, the prosecutors said could be interpreted as a threat. Comey responded with an assertive defense of his position and of the judicial system. Mr. Comey said, "I'm still innocent. I'm still not afraid, and I still believe in the independent federal judiciary," expoducted. His statement and the case itself polarized reactions. Supporters of the prosecution argued the post crossed a line, while critics called the move politically motivated. For observers, the episode became another touchstone in an ongoing national conversation about institutions, accountability, and political resilience. The week's economic storylines mixed corporate resilience and currency pressures. Equity markets in the Philippines steadied after a multi-day slide as investors repositioned ahead of a major policy decision by the US Federal Reserve. The Philippine peso, however, came under pressure and slid to fresh lows, a concern for importers and policymakers in a trade-dependent economy. Corporate reporting painted a patchwork picture. Some conglomerates reported solid first quarter results, while utilities and power units provided brighter pockets of growth, at times producing double-digit profit in crew. Eases, regulators also moved forward with capital markets activity, approving a preferred share offering for a development firm and granting shelf registration that allows flexible access to public funding. On the energy transition front, companies and local governments announced programs aimed at accelerating rooftop solar uptake. One initiative pairing a renewable energy firm with a payments platform and a provincial government sought to lower barriers to residential installations using flexible financing that reduces the need for traditional bank collateral. For communities weighing ways to lower bills and cut emissions, these programs offer scalable models, even as macroeconomic headwinds complicate household decisions. Politics at home in the Philippines produced moments both comic and consequential. A lawmaker's misattribution of a famous movie line during the heated committee debate sparked memes online and a sharp correction in the chamber. A reminder that popular culture and procedural rigor sometimes collide in public forums. Elsewhere, lawmakers insisted the committee treat impeachment-related records with seriousness and ensure any action complied with the law. Those procedural debates underscore a basic truth. Institutions must keep both their legal bearings and public legitimacy as they navigate politically fraught moments. Taken together, these threads, tactical naval rehearsals in contested waters, strategic shifts among oil producers, ceremonial diplomacy in Washington, a high-profile legal indictment, corporate earnings, and local politics offer a snapshot of a world where defense, Diplomacy, economics, and culture intersect. Exercises at sea are not only about ordnance and sensors, they are also about signaling and deterrence. The presence of watching warships and aircraft reminds us that even well-executed drills will be monitored, interpreted, and sometimes contested by others. For military planners, the lessons are practical and immediate. Frequent, realistic joint exercises build trust, test logistics, reveal gaps, and reduce the risk of missteps in crisis. For diplomats and analysts, a country's choice to leave a producer cartel will require recalibration of alliances and forecasts. For investors and business leaders, a mix of steady corporate results and currency volatility complicates short-term planning while highlighting areas of resilience that can be leaned on. For citizens, the theatricality and high stakes of public life, whether in courtrooms, in parliaments, or on the water, remain a reminder that institutions and civic norms are being tested just as surely as ships and sensors. At sea, the drill work is unglamorous yet essential. Repetition builds muscle memory. Radio calls, logged, damage control steps practiced, casualty evacuation rehearsed until they are automatic. Beyond immediate tactical benefit, there is a larger strategic message. When allies and partners practice together, they increase the chance too. HAT. Should a crisis come, their response will be coordinated, proportionate and effective. As the task group completed its last replenishment and sailors prepared to stand down for port calls, commanders stressed that training would not stop. More maritime and joint exercises are already in planners' calendars as part of the Balikatan series, signalling an intention to keep sharpening interoperability across the region. Diplomats will watch whether shifts among energy producers reshape the cohesion of long-standing alliances. Legal and political watchers at home will follow high-profile cases and their implications for institutions. Markets will await central bank signals and corporate earnings. And families weighing rooftop solar will evaluate new financing options. Across these spheres, the lesson is consistent. In an era of close observation and rapid signal exchange, the small details of readiness matter more than ever. A refueling at sea, a practice radio call, a carefully worded air diplomatic statement. None of these are glamorous, but each can have outsized effects when tensions rise. They are the quiet scaffolding of stability. They are the rehearsals that, when they work, help ensure that if trouble comes, the response will be deliberate, lawful, and effective. For now, ships will return to routine patrols and headquarters will sift through after-action reports. Crews will inspect gear and plan lessons learned. Diplomats will return to the long game of negotiation and alliance management. Markets will look for signals from central banks and community